In the heavyweight division at UFC Fight Night, you got Karl Williams 7-1 taking on Lukasz Brzeski, who comes in at 8-2, and another fight on this card that features fighters from Dana White's Contender Series. It seems like it's that time for these guys to get involved. Karl Williams, 2-1 favorite in this fight. Let's see if it stacks up. Brzeski, 1 inch taller at 6'4", but he's given up 1 inch in reach to Karl Williams. Both guys right-handed. And again, these are tough fights to predict because I lean on the stats, or at least use them to help me, help guide me. But the stats, when you're dealing with guys that only have 1 or 2 fights, are not the same as guys that have 10, 20 fights, right? But right now, Brzeski, nearly 7 significant strikes per minute compared to 1.6 per minute from Karl Williams. Now, Karl Williams has been landing about a takedown per round. Brzeski, 1 takedown over the course of 3 rounds. So, and again, limited UFC action. So Karl Williams had 1 fight at Dana White's Contender Series, which he won, dominating his opponent 24-1 in significant strikes. And you think about that over 3 rounds. He also did this with 3 takedowns, so he really controlled his opponent and dominated him. That's a long time to be in the octagon and only land 1 punch if you're Jimmy Lawson, whom he beat. So he had the ability to take his opponent completely out of their game. Now, Brzeski went on to fight Martin Buday, who had a lot of hype coming in. Now, it looked to me like Brzeski beat him 118-66 in significant strikes. He lost by split decision. These are the things that make people crazy in terms of decision. So Brzeski on paper doubled up, over 100 significant strikes compared to 66, and he lost. But at Contender Series, he beat Dylan Potter 80-43 in significant strikes, 2 takedowns to 0, and submitted him in the 3rd round. So it's going to be an interesting fight. However, Karl Williams does have the ability to take down his opponents. He seems a little bit more well-rounded to me. And, in this case, he's not facing a UFC fighter. He kind of gets an easier entrance into the UFC. Now, Brzeski's pretty good, but it's not the same as fighting a veteran UFC fighter. So I like Karl Williams to win this thing. He just proved that he can really take his opponent out of their game and just control the heck out of him. he held his opponent to 1 significant strike. And we've seen this before when a guy goes in there and submits a guy pretty quickly or KOs him early or whatever. But after 3 rounds, Karl Williams held his opponent to 1 punch. That's wild. And that means in 3 separate occasions in 3 rounds, the guy gets to start standing, at least land a jab or touch him on the body or something. But Karl Williams didn't even allow that to happen and took the guy out of his fight. So I'm going with Karl Williams. I like him to win this fight, take Brzeski out of his game, hopefully get the finish. But regardless, if it goes to a decision, he'll move to 8-1, in my opinion, here in the heavyweight division at UFC Fight Night.